We got everyone on the AB team to contribute, and we'll see who's right next year. Some people have terrible calls, some people have great calls, and we don't know yet who's who.
We hard coded our predictions. I think this is the best piece of literature, maybe the most fun, right? You know, maybe this isn't the most informative, even though it is very informative, right? We do put out a lot of great research, but this was absolutely one of the most fun pieces that we have. I feel like this is a great way for you to get to know our team. You can see how diverse we are in many ways, and you know, there's a lot of really interesting predictions that I think, you know, we're gonna come back and see what happens. So I can open up, talk some of my predictions, right? I think the biggest thing, like I already said, ETH is going to outperform Bitcoin. And of course, you know, these are all predictions, right? None of this is any guaranteed, right? This is sort of an exercise. But we think ETH is going to outperform Bitcoin.
Oh, welcome to a brand new year, 2025. This is the User Extractable Value podcast. Back with the AB team, Mark, Dill, Monty, Whitetail. Brand new year. How we feeling, guys?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling bullish.
Me too.
It's a good time to be in crypto, I think.
Hopefully the holiday slow season is over and we're going to be entering back into the full bull market mode for the new year. A lot of good things coming, a lot of changes happening in the US, the inauguration coming. So hopefully we're headed back on track for the bull market.
Tax harvesting stopping, all sorts of things.
What are we covering first? Big BTC. What has been going on? There seems to be some sideways action. Bouncing back today, past 2 days. What is this indicative of? What's going on here?
This is just how it plays out every other year, right? So we try to look at this market in 4-year cycles. And I mean, this played out exactly how it did pretty much in 2021. Even 2016 and 2020, being the end of 2024, we saw some really good action in the beginning of last quarter. I think in December it tailed off. There's a lot that goes into that. I mean, it's holidays. People are tax harvesting. They're trying to use different tax strategies, and sometimes that requires selling off. It is extremely bullish because if it's following these patterns that have happened in the past, then it tells us that the patterns in 2025 and Q1 and Q2, if those can stay consistent, then we're going to be doing very well. And we're hopefully correctly allocated. And I'm just looking forward to it. I'm very hopeful.
I definitely think we are well positioned to pop off. What's going on with ETH?
Just before we leave here, so I'm not the best at TA, but pivot points are great in crypto, and you can really see how it bounces here. And so, just with Bitcoin, like no one knows where it's going to go, but looking at technical analysis, seems like there's a lot of green space on a 3-month chart above to the next resistance, and then if you go on the 1-month chart, it seems like there's also a lot of space. And then if you go on the weekly chart, there's about to be a new thing forming, new pivot points. So if I had to bet my left nut, I would say Bitcoin hits easily 121K at some point in Q1, and maybe even rips to 150K at some point in 2025.
Yeah. Well, the fundamentals haven't changed, and there's still institutional interest. There's still people that are getting involved in the space for the first time. Someone wrote something really funny on Twitter the other day. It was like, you know that we're still early because crypto is still pretty lame. They said working in crypto is pretty lame.
That's facts. Yeah. I think 120K is super doable, honestly, super achievable. I think that Bitcoin still has some room to grow, but I think that this year, 2025, I mean, we've seen Bitcoin rip relative to the rest of the blue chips, the rest of the market for the past 2 years. I think that this year is going to be the year where it kind of slows down, consolidates. It could still grow, but I really think that you can actually read in our prediction piece that we're going to talk about soon. Our whole team makes a ton of really awesome predictions. I'm predicting that this year ETH outperforms Bitcoin, and I think that we AB Fund are going to outperform both ETH and Bitcoin and Coin 50. So I think this is the year, especially first half of the year. It's potentially the time to have some risk on. And, we will see what happens. I think this kind of brings us right into ETH. In addition to this BTC chart, you definitely want to be watching the Bitcoin ETH chart and how ETH is growing in relation to Bitcoin. And then, of course, watching ETH. ETH is nowhere near all-time highs. I mean, relative to Bitcoin being 50% above them last cycle, ETH is, still below. I think that ETH has just got some. I sent you guys, I forwarded what Elon sent us about how Q1 of each 4-year cycle has been the year for ETH to rip. Do you want to pull that up? I don't know if one of you can send that in either into the chat. I don't have texting on this computer, but it was a tweet by Quinton048.eth about the quarter of truth. Yep. This is
QOT.
Yes. This is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think an easy way to look at it is just look at where Bitcoin is, almost 2x the last all-time high. And then you look at where ETH is, just barely touching the last all-time high. So I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that we're going to see some growth in ETH to catch up to Bitcoin. And to me, that's the most obvious, simple way to look at where ETH is going in the next quarter or two.
Yeah. One of the interesting things is we actually had, for the first time, some days where ETH inflows from the ETFs were actually greater than the Bitcoin inflows.
Yep, we had a graphic of that in our prediction piece.
Yeah, so people are noticing, and I think if you talk to people that are outside of crypto, a lot of them have said in the past, and I'm hearing it more again. And this is very true for people that are more in traditional finance, specifically in real estate, because of the tangibility. They understand that blockchain has value, but they don't understand Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's a little bit more ideological, and there's definitely a component of belief there. But when they say that blockchain has value but not Bitcoin, they start to look at where are the different applications being created. And obviously the answer right now is Ethereum, because that's where all the developers are, that's where all the money is, that's where all the infrastructure has been built. And then you see groups I think one of the biggest pieces of news was Deutsche Bank deciding to create their own L2. I'll talk about this a little bit more in my predictions, but I do think this is going to be a trend. I think that a lot of people started, creating private permissions, blockchain, specifically like institutions and banks. I think that these same groups are seeing that the public wants to move more towards public permissionless blockchains. So building on Ethereum will be more common. And I think people are seeing that and want to be more involved in where that infrastructure is being built. So they're looking at ETH.
Yeah.
The most common question I feel like I've gotten so far has been actually, when do I sell? I feel like
Never.
which is great, because it means that you should be worried when people are not worried about selling. It's human psychology. And the answer to sell is when I get a girlfriend.
Yeah, we know Vitalik got a girlfriend last year potentially, but I think he dumped her because the price has been bouncing back.
Monty, I don't have 20 years to wait to sell.
I think this is awesome. Awesome macro talk. What is going on with some of the rest of the market? We've got a few other coins in our portfolio, a few other coins on our watch list. Monty, why don't you tell us about some of these?
Yeah, I mean, as we've um, said multiple times, AB is very deep in the Base ecosystem. We thought that Base would be a home run. Just Coinbase has the best distribution, probably besides Binance, and BSC is kind of a little iffy. So it made sense that Base would rip. And these are just some of our biggest positions. These are some of the biggest winners so far. And the really cool thing I like about all of these, and we can dive into them more, is that these are all Base native projects. And I feel like not a lot of other L2s have that, where all of these AERO, Miggles, Virtual, BMX, those are all built on Base, incubated on Base, founded on Base. It's not like AAVE coming over from Ethereum. Nothing, not that there's anything wrong with that, but this just shows that the unique innovation is within the Base. It's just not copying other L2s or other strategies.
Yeah, specifically with virtual. I mean, I know Jesse Pollock, the creator of Base, has often said that AI, that Base was going to be for AI, and they really wanted to put a lot of focus there. And I don't know of other projects that are similar to Virtuals, if there are any projects out there that are built on other chains, and this one was built on Base. It's awesome.
Yeah, what stands out to me is that this array of, altcoins that we're excited about right now, we didn't even pick them, to display here because they're all on Base, right? It just so happens that several of the projects that we are the most excited about are on Base, right? So, I think that's a good sign, right? We try very hard not to be biased towards anything, right? I mean, if anything, we're biased towards the best technology and towards the highest opportunity for potential returns in a safe way. And I think that so many of those opportunities are being found on Base. Between AERO, we've discussed a lot, the central liquidity hub of Base. I mean, they're starting to see it's like more volume. They're comparable volume to all of Solana, I believe, in the past couple of weeks. I mean, Miggles, of course, we know a lot about, with the meme play, with Coinbase and their potential Superbowl commercial that we'll talk about. Virtuals, we just covered. BMX, very interesting. Perpetuals platform project on Base that has some, definite alien math going on as far as the capabilities and what you're able to do on there. I think we've got a few other, potential experimental plays we want to cover. What else is happening? a long pause for the experimental stuff.
Monty, I know there's one project here that you're really, really big fan of, really caught your interest. I think it's called Dickbutt. Can you tell us the lore behind this project?
Yeah, so at AB, we do deep fundamental research. And so taking a step back, last week, or 2 weeks ago, we were doing research on meme coins, and it became obvious to me doing the research that Pepe was a original internet meme on like 4chan and stuff like that before the meme coin blew up, and similar to a few other memes that have kind of really became famous. And so I was in the trenches, and Dickbutt popped up. And what really actually drew my attention to this was that it was a $1.9 million market cap. And the liquidity on it was like 500K with 250K of ETH in it. So I'm like, who's putting 250K of ETH liquidity into a 1.9 million dollar market cap? That's way too much liquidity for the market cap. And so it caught my attention. And then I started doing more research, and Dickbutt is just an OG internet meme. It's actually hilarious. I think everyone should go look up the genesis of it, and you'll realize that don't overthink it. Dick and butt.
So they were also NFTs. In the last cycle, if you follow CoinShares at all, Meltem Demirs, who is a legend in the crypto space, she's been tweeting about Dickbutts for years. I assume she meant the NFT and the experimental outside of crypto version of Dickbutts. But yeah, I mean, this has been around, and they made a coin, and they made a token on Base. And guess what? Monty dropped it. Wait till threw it in the chat, said, "Here's Dickbutt," and I said, "All right, I'm buying." So I'm in too.
Doesn't that guy that owns X and Tesla and SpaceX and all that stuff, doesn't he talk about Dickbutt as well?
Yeah, Elon Sobel. Now, Elon Musk did reply to someone with the picture of Dickbutt. I don't know if you have any more context on that, Monty.
It was in 2022, so it was an old picture, but he's aware of Dickbutt. So
it's on his radar.
It's a low cap gem. You can lose all of your money, but this is kind of something where the memes, if someone's putting a lot of money behind it, they're probably going to pump it. This is not a forever investment, but there's definitely a chance to make some money.
Yeah, all right. And now the most financial advice.
Yeah, there's definitely not. You can lose everything.
Are we not going to talk about our project?
I think we missed one. These are, of course, experimental plays, but experimenting is good as long as you are managing your risk correctly. Experimentation does not mean bad, and small does not mean bad either.
Yeah. All right, real quick. So Dylan and I, just for full disclosure and transparency, we are on the founding team of ETH Printer, and this was an experimental play by us because we discovered reflection tokens. Reflection tokens have really taken off on Base, and one of the reflection tokens are tokens where there's a tax, and the money that's taken in the form of a tax is then distributed as rewards to holders. So it's very based on volume, and that's how they were created. The original one was SafeMoon. The big problem with SafeMoon is when they were giving out rewards, it was in the form of SafeMoon, and that was really counterproductive for the price because people were getting rewards that they were instantly selling off. Eventually, it sold off very hard. It was really good for the space. It brought a lot of people into crypto, and a lot of people made money from it. But the cool innovation that we saw on Base was that people were creating a lot of these tokens, Baby Degen is one, Baby Miggles, some of these others where they were actually giving reflections. And the big innovation, they were giving these rewards in other tokens.
Base printer?
Base printer. The base printer is obviously one of the biggest ones. Base printer was the inspiration behind ETH printer, where they were actually giving reflections. They were doing a 5% tax. They still are. And they're giving these rewards out in USDC. What we noticed was that there was a need for one to give reflections in, the most important asset on top of Base, which is Ethereum. So we went ahead and we built it. We're building an incredible community out there. And it's a lot of fun, and it's experimental. The one innovation that we wanted to bring to the table is we wanted to be the first reflection token not relying on volume, where we're actually planning to use some of the staking mechanisms, trying to own a validator node for the community, make those distributions. So it's just a little bit different. It's fun, not financial advice, but it's a cool project that we're working on.
Yeah, I think it's a great project, and right now we're one of the reflection tokens that has actually put out a great plan for the treasury and everything like that. But I think the most important takeaway here is that these new reflection tokens are giving out reflections in another currency, in this case ETH, which is more likely to drive buy pressure rather than sell pressure, which is what you get with a token like SafeMoon, which is paying out rewards in SafeMoon. So we think that there could be a new meta forming here of a new type of reflection token that actually encourages buy pressure instead of sell pressure. So cool project. You can check out the website roadmap and soon to come white paper for information about what's going on with ETH Printer.
Yeah, and I think it's super awesome. Obviously, it sounds like you guys and the rest of the team has thought a lot about the economics of it and whatnot. But I mean, even further than just the crypto economics, I mean, it's a project that I like it, for example, because it is focused on something bigger than itself, right? I mean, people are going to start accumulating ETH, as we've seen, right? Institutions, the world is starting to accumulate ETH. And I mean, people love yield. Boomers love yield. So I believe a lot of the market is going to test out and experiment with a lot of different things to yield ETH in different ways. And, if this project is a way to do that, I think that's interesting. I think it could definitely draw some mass attention.
Nice. On to our predictions. This was a very exciting written piece to put together, probably the most exciting so far. We got everyone on the AB team to contribute, and we'll see who's right next year. Some people have terrible calls, some people have great calls, and we don't know yet who's who.
We hard coded our predictions. I think this is the best piece of literature. Maybe the most fun, right? Maybe this isn't the most informative, even though it is very informative, right? We do put out a lot of great research, but this was absolutely one of the most fun pieces that we have. I feel like this is a great way for you to get to know our team. You can see how diverse we are in many ways. There's a lot of really interesting predictions that I think, we're going to come back and see what happens. So I can open up, talk some of my predictions. Right. I think the biggest thing, like I already said, ETH is going to outperform Bitcoin. And of course, these are all predictions, right? None of this is any guaranteed, right? This is sort of an exercise. But we think ETH is going to outperform Bitcoin, and I think AB Fund is going to outperform both Bitcoin, ETH, and the Coin 50 index, which I think, shouts out to Coinbase for making the Coin 50 index. I think it's a great way to sort of benchmark the market. It's actually always been pretty difficult to, many indexes. People don't know whether you want to do the top 10 index for crypto, top 20, even if you do the top 50. Because so much of crypto is so volatile, it's like the top 50 coins can change pretty dramatically over the course of a year, over the course of a quarter, right? So having a big institution like Coinbase to make a strategic effort towards tracking what they believe is a good 50 batch, I think is pretty interesting, and definitely interested. I mean, this is going to be the first year, I believe, that it's even around. So very interested to see how that performs.
What is the Coin 50?
So I actually updated this. It looks like I backlinked everything in the most recent version of this piece. But yep, there you go. You could click on the Coin 50. So the Coin 50 index is the premier global benchmark index for digital assets, of course. It is essentially Coinbase's index. You guys can read a lot more about it here. I mean, they're providing a lot of tools, but essentially it's a top 50 index provided by Coinbase. I'm guessing they're using, for the majority of it, they're going to go with what is the biggest, most liquid projects. But I'm sure there's, some degrees of variables to why they're including some and potentially excluding others. I think if anyone is a good company to put this together, it's probably Coinbase.
Yeah, the problem with diversification in crypto historically has been that most of the projects flame out or they're vaporware and they pump a little bit. So if you just buy the top 10 on a given year, a lot of those projects actually end up, or top 20, a lot of those projects end up going to zero. So it doesn't actually provide that much, doesn't diversify you well. You're just buying worse projects than kind of the best 3 or 4. But hopefully that changes as the industry matures.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is true, that, almost every year in the past roughly 8 years, if you would have had an index of the top 10, I'm pretty sure that did worse than either just ETH or just Bitcoin. Rarely did it ever do better than both. So that's on that. I think Optimism Superchain, right? This is we're very active in the Optimism DAO. The Optimism Superchain, for those that don't know, is essentially the base layer, the kind of number one scaling solution on Ethereum. It's the base layer of Base. It's the base layer of Sonium. It's the base layer of Kraken's new ink, isn't it? I know that there's so many different. Visa has been building applications on it. It's like, I think that many people don't realize that this is kind of like the, similar to, almost HTML, a base layer protocol on the internet that nobody is familiar with, everybody uses. And that's Optimism. But imagine if you could invest in that and actually own equity in that. So we're super excited. This is one of the ones where it's very technical and maybe a bit boring, but absolutely widespreading. And we think it's going to continue to dominate. We really think Base is doing an amazing job being the premier sort of user of the OP Superstack. And they are really bringing on a lot of adoption with so many different things, but from actual real activity to investing to global conferences to building applications. It's like it's awesome what Base has got going on. Mr. Miggles is a play that we've been talking about since about 2 cents, ran all the way up to about 19 cents. Now it's back at about 5 to 6 cents. Right, we're still buying. We think it's genuinely still undervalued. We know that a lot of big participants typically wait for coins to have these large 70% plus shakeouts. And now this would be sort of number 2 shakeout of over 70% that Mr. Miggles has had. So we've been buying more recently. I believe that they're going to have a Super Bowl commercial. I think it was about, maybe it was 3 years ago when Coinbase had I believe it was their first Super Bowl commercial. It was just, we linked it here. I think it was one of the most captivating ones. It was literally just you could even click on this and it'll show you, I think people might remember it, but it was a QR code bouncing across the screen. And it was one of the most interacted with ads, period. It was 60 seconds of this. And, if you grew up having to use dial-up internet, you kind of remember these screensavers where you'd go crazy if it was ever about to hit a perfect corner. And, Coinbase skibidi edged us for about 60 seconds. And while everyone was watching this, if you scanned it, it took you to Coinbase. So this is a company that we know has a massive budget, has a massive marketing team. They have a channel with hundreds of millions of views, yet they're backing this project that only has a few thousand views on their same channel. So I think Mr. Miggles is going to be featured in a Coinbase commercial. It's been getting featured in a lot of their different ad campaigns, but being very teased very subtly. So I think Big B, shouts out to Basegod, shouts out to both Basegods, but we think that Big B's he's gracing everyone with a low price right now, letting all the normies get in, and I think this next quarter or two is going to be pretty substantial. Then last prediction for me, Advantage Blockchain, our team, ours truly, is going to be a household name in the crypto industry. I think we've done an incredible job growing on all fronts of all metrics in the past year. We have a phenomenal team who has helped us really grow exponentially in terms of our presence. We've focused tremendously on all of our content for the past 8 years, but really for the past year, we've focused a lot on actually growing and spreading and sharing that content with you guys, the public, to educate the world on how to participate more in this financial revolution and ultimately be more financially free. So that's what we're trying to do here at AB, and we love for you to help us join the road, take part in all of this. So at AB, the revolution is going to be televised as long as you're subbed to our YouTube here. Biggest longs, I talk ETH, Base, OP, some of those coins we just discussed, AERO, Miggles, Virtuals, and DeSci. Big shouts out to Research Hub. That's our number one DeSci play. Biggest shorts, it's got to be USD. We're using all our dry powder right now, and we will see for the next roughly 2 quarters how that goes. And I think additionally L1s outside of ETH and Solana, I think the rest of the market is really just maturing so much that if you're not on ETH or Solana, or one of the strange, I guess if it's a layer on Bitcoin, it's not really an L1. So if you're not really built on ETH, Solana, or Bitcoin, then I think it's going to be really, really tough to succeed. I think, a prime example is like Cosmos, the IBC ecosystem. We've watched, studied, researched that ecosystem for years. It's got a lot of great activity, a lot of great developers, a lot of really awesome applications. But it's just like fundamentally, it's just so hard to compete. Whether there's small UX issues, small transactability issues, all of these things, these scaling problems are being perfected on these major ecosystems that we're working with. And if you can't keep up, then you can't keep up. So those are kind of my biggest predictions. I think we can go to Whitetail. Who is this Whitetail guy? I've been hearing about him.
He's an alias of some legend. I don't know. All right. Some of my predictions. We're currently in the AI. Well, if you look at the chart here, you kind of see it overlapping DeFi summer and DeFi boom with AI. And it seems like it's about, you could say AI has already gone parabolic, but it's about to go even more parabolic. I don't know if it 2x's from here if you want to be buying in because it starts to get a little rich, but the momentum's there. So I think AI will exceed the boom of DeFi summer, and at its peak, it'll be worth at least 70 billion higher than whatever DeFi reached.
I like that you compared it to DeFi, by the way. That was the people who remember that 2020 bull run. DeFi was a very, very impactful, large segment of the whole market. And I don't think it's crazy to think that AI could compete with that. And so I like that prediction. I like that call.
Yeah. Next is Ethereum ETFs will approve staking. This will allow the holders to generate yield. If you look at the yield paid on the QQQ, I think it's about 60 or 80 basis points. The QQQ is a NASDAQ 100. If you look at Ethereum, the yield will be close to 2%. So you're almost getting 2 to 2.5 times the yield of a similar technology investment. It'll be pretty attractive to boomers. And then also that Ethereum ETFs will have more net inflows or net flows than Bitcoin in 2025. That's going out there, but I think it's Ethereum's time to shine, and never fade Larry Fink. For number 3, crypto market cap reaches a meme number, 69% of gold's market cap. That is our new target. Gold's market cap's currently at 18 trillion, so let's say crypto gets to 12 trillion. If gold increases by another 20%, let's say crypto reaches 14 or 15 trillion.
Yeah, what's the total crypto market cap right now? I could check.
It's like 4 trillion, maybe 3.5 trillion. So This is another 3x from here. And then I think Ethereum almost reaches Bitcoin's high from 2017. This is a little higher prediction than most people have on crypto Twitter and stuff that we talk to, but I'm going for it. Bitcoin's high in 2017 was like 19,743 or something like that. I think Ethereum touches 18,000, and then that's when you want to dump or sell or buy more. I don't know. This is not investment advice. You know your own strategy.
Love it.
Next is NFT season. Once people in crypto have money, they want to flex. Some people buys Lambos, some people buys NFTs. I think a lot of people will be buying NFTs, especially let's say blue chip ones, where there's a big difference between like the hottest PFP and an artist like Xcopy or someone else. And so different segments of the NFT market will heat up again. I do not think Bored Apes reach an all-time high again. I think that's a easy call, but who knows? And then I guess my final one, and this is maybe a little nuanced, but another crypto Twitter main character bites the dust. I don't know if it's Michael Saylor. I don't know if it's Ansem. I don't know who it is, but every year someone has to fall for doing some dumb shit, and we haven't had anyone fall in a while. So
yeah, Saylor could be a good call. He's been really God mode recently. Once you get that much power and recognition and being rightness, it's hard to keep that up. I also think back to the NFTs. You talked about Bored Apes. I think Pudgy Penguins is going to steal the show for the NFT market. I mean, they've already been doing some massive dealings with OpenSea, some massive dealings with Walmart and their distributions. They're even starting to do some dealings with Miggles that we're seeing in the meme world order, which is very, very exciting. I think that Pudgies are really going to take over if we're talking NFTs. I also see Basegods on here. Very, very, very interesting NFT. What's going on with those and some of your other longs here?
Yeah, so I'll hop in my long. So Ethereum, we think that Ethereum has just a phenomenal year. I think Ethereum easily puts in its largest daily, monthly, weekly, all of those candles for all-time records this year. I don't know when, but I think they'll do that. We're very bullish on the base ecosystem, as we mentioned earlier. Chainlink is one of my larger positions. It is one of those crypto projects that actually has real-world utility. They're doing deals with all of these banks and any really information provider. To sum up Chainlink, they bring off-chain data on-chain. Ethereum doesn't know its price. Ethereum doesn't know what Bitcoin trading at. It doesn't know anything. Chainlink provides the data for Ethereum to work. And not only Ethereum, pretty much every single blockchain. It is the web, the connector, the data provider. And then Basegods, I'm extremely bullish. Basegods, I'm in the Bald Alliance. You see that.
As am I. Thank you, Basegod.
Thank you, Basegod. You see that the Bald Alliance is trying to really become the culture hub on Ethereum or on Base. And how you get into it is you have to own a Basegod. But it's not only about promoting Basegods, it's about promoting other cultural and good projects on Base. And if they have a few successes there, I see the flywheel really kicking off.
I think just to add to that, it's not just about promoting their own project. I mean, you look at the mission of Basegods and Basegod and Base, right? The ideology of being based, they defined it, right? It's actually doing good. It's this white, kind of white hat, benevolent presence, right? I mean, if we're talking about the world of cryptography and just online tribes, right? I mean, everyone knows that there's a difference of, benevolent communities, right? And, malevolent, right? Negative communities. And Moloch, right, is a sort of concept that gets referred to a lot in building out these crypto communities. And, we really have been leaning towards the projects in our entire history of investing of being the ones that are not just doing this for the short term, that are genuinely trying to build out long-term net good ecosystems and communities and activity. So, aside from being funny, and these guys are hilarious at Basegods, they are genuinely pushing a very good message, which is pro decentralization and, true promotion of good content rather than just trying to make a quick buck. And we think that's what's really going to ultimately win.
And then just to wrap it up, I guess I had a similar short as Mark. Alt layer ones, I don't want to name anyone, but recently a project lost its CEO. But I thought blockchains didn't have CEOs, so there's just a lot of kind of confusion over there where VCs thought they could create a culture around a blockchain through money, and I just don't think that's how it works. And so I think a lot of those will fade. And then
I'm a little confused. I see you're stocking up on your dick butts, but you're getting rid of all your fart coins. My simple logic would think if you have more dick butts, you're gonna have more farts. But maybe I'm missing something.
Well, I'm gonna eat my words here because I'm gonna say short fart coin, and what's that, like 1.5 billion, and it's gonna be the next Shiba Inu. It's gonna be at 15 billion next year. But I'm very confident on fading Peanut because Peanut's dead. The narrative's over. Hopefully, we don't see another animal abuse situation like that, and we can just let it fade away. But I'll wrap up, and I think Beckman had some great predictions as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll skip over some of the repeat predictions here. I do think base surpasses Solana in so many different ways. TVL, volume. I think it's already trending in that direction. Um, I don't have to add any more on why we're so bullish on base, but I just see it as being the white hat retail ecosystem, while Solana is a little bit more shady. I think now that you have some ways to bridge over your Solana to base through things like Phantom Wallet, I think that you'll see a continuation of a lot of those funds reallocating to the base ecosystem. Mark covered decentralized science and research hub, but I do think it really, this is anecdotally, spoke to one of our investors who's really become a friend. He's a scientist, and he was telling me about all the cool stuff that's happening in Research Hub. And as a scientist, if he believes in it and he knows other scientists that believe in this concept, science does seem like a pretty ripe industry for blockchain usage. Obviously, blockchain is centered around data and transparency, and I think the more good information with a good system that rewards scientists for things like peer reviews and putting in good content that can be shared around the world, I think that's really, really positive and just makes sense to me. This is probably my craziest prediction, but I stand by. I think that Inc. mainnet, which was launched by Kraken, becomes a top 3 layer 2 on Ethereum. I didn't really, until maybe a year ago, understand Kraken's reach and how great of a company they are, but they shouldn't be underestimated. And I think that they're going to launch some really cool things. I think that their team is very innovative. I think that I know someone who works at Kraken, and what she's told me consistently is that this existing SEC has posed a lot of problems for them because they've had to use almost 30% of their budget, it sounds like, for that can be used for development and marketing and customer acquisition on fighting legal battles. So I think as we usher in a larger or a more friendly SEC and more friendly regulation, I think they'll be able to spend this money on things that can benefit their ecosystem. I think that they really, last point I'll hit on this is I think they're taking a page out of Coinbase's book. Coinbase and Kraken, there's some others obviously, but these are groups that have owned the retail onboarding and on-ramp to crypto and exchange market for years. I think that as other banks and institutions and asset managers offer crypto services, they'll lose market share. So they're doing what banks aren't doing, except for Deutsche Bank, which I'll get into my next prediction. But they're actually moving things on chain. So I feel like they're 2 steps ahead, these exchanges of where the institutions are. And I think Kraken is just a really good one. So really excited to dive in. And then the last one, I think that the trend will continue. I think Deutsche Bank made an incredible call. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but they're not going the private permissioned blockchain route like JP Morgan has with Onyx. They are moving towards a public permissionless blockchain where people can go and then build on Deutsche Bank's blockchain. I mean, that's really cool. That's unique for that's very unique for an institution, and so I applaud them for not just wanting to get involved in crypto, but to want to do it in a way that makes sense for the ecosystem that they're playing in.
Yeah, interesting note on Deutsche Bank's innovation too is that they're aiming to do it through ZK Sync, which is a tech stack using zero knowledge proofs, which is, to our understanding, I believe that zero knowledge proofs are going to be, sort of the ultimate best way to transact, because it allows for a much increased, a very increased level of anonymity and privacy. However, at current states, it's much slower, right? Things like, the Optimism Superstack or Superchain, and Base, they are much faster and a bit of a more scalable solution right now. So I'm curious to see. I think having a very big player like Deutsche Bank is going to progress the research and developments in the whole kind of ZK industry, and innately kind of after that push forward the rest of the industry. So it's nice to see some actual decentralization, even on Ethereum.
Yeah, and zero knowledge proofs are awesome because it kind of mixes privacy with like verifiability and speed. So for someone like Deutsche Bank, where all of their customers have to be KYC'd and AML'd, it allows them to go through that process very easily and securely, without giving up a lot of their privacy, which is kind of how it works in Web 2. So really cool development. Really appreciate you bringing that up.
I just have one question about the banks launching chains.
Hmm.
What good crypto person wants to work for a bank?
The ones that want to make nice, big, stable paychecks.
Well, it'll be interesting. Are they going to focus on something like RWA, which obviously on their balance sheet, I'm sure they have a lot that they can tokenize. That could be an interesting use case, but it's a good point, Monty.
Yeah, I just think if we're talking about Kraken launching their own L2 versus Deutsche Bank launching their own L2, like I have to imagine that crypto developers would much rather work for an extremely crypto native company like Kraken versus Deutsche Bank. Like, ew.
Yeah, but how are they going to get pizza parties if they're not working for a bank?
I think you're absolutely right. The best talent is out there building, the new most Wild West applications, which is, leaning more the ones that we're following. But, I think there are some older guys. I mean, the industry's been around for what, 15 years or so, like that's still quite young. There still are probably some older guys that are ready to just be, ready to submit to the banks and get a nice big cushy paycheck, for stability. But us younger guys, I think we're still more focused on building things that are going to have exponential growth by magnitudes. So I think that's what a lot of the best talent in the space is doing. Great point. Beckman, I see you put here, some other stuff we covered, but Moonwell made your biggest longs. What's so moonish about Moonwell?
Funny enough, I'm trying to find a tweet, but I am not able to find it. But I read somewhere, it might have been yesterday, it might have been 2 days ago, where Moonwell has become like the second largest DeFi platform. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that they have like the second most TVL or something. I read some tweet along that lines. Maybe I'm completely off.
The source,
Uh,
I made it up.
Yeah. They have something. They just did something really cool. They made some huge accomplishment. That being said, Moonwell is awesome. I use it personally. Not financial advice. Look at your own platforms. Obviously, explore these DeFi opportunities with some caution, as we've seen some issues in the past from things like Terra Luna. But that being said, I'm really bullish on Moonwell. I think they have a great product. They have a cool collateral system. They also offer a lot of the rewards in Moonwell and Morpho. So it's not just like it's not how previous DeFi platforms have worked before. Like if you do a USDC vault, they might be offering 15% returns on that, but only 6 to 8% maybe in USDC, which is a pretty sustainable level. While the rest is in their native Moonwell and Morpho token, which is also a really cool thing. If you wanna get really deep into that DeFi stuff, you
Yeah.
can take your Moonwell rewards from your USDC or from your Ethereum. You can stake that on the platform. It's it's a whole big thing. It's
Some crypto
pounding
flywheels.
money.
Some
Yeah,
crypto
break.
flywheels. I think this Moonwell is great UEV. I think this is a great example of what UEV is, right? It's user extractable value. It's, Alec is actually here using platforms and extracting value from them, right? We're not just throwing money at things and letting it sit. We're actually using these applications that are being built in all kinds of different ways. And Moonwell is providing a great, infrastructure for people all around the world to do that, access these financial instruments when, there's so many countries, so many cities, so many legislations or legislatures or areas in the world where people can't do this ever before and until now. So it's awesome.
Okay, I found the tweet. By the way, I was very off. It was not TVL. It was active users. It is the second. Is the DeFi platform with the second most highest active users.
Nice. And then
that's a
lastly,
fair that's a fair metric.
Yeah.
your shorts, you're trying to get away from the rugs, I see.
I don't need to bash Solana any more than I do on a regular basis, but
And
Oh,
by the way, we just put out an awesome piece on Solana. Obviously, this is an interesting point, right? When we talk about things like we try to follow the benevolent ecosystems, the ecosystems that are really the culture there is to be net good. Right? I mean, we just interviewed one of the foundation directors of Solana, who's a good friend of ours. He's an incredibly smart guy, probably smarter than all of us combined. He's super Solana bull, obviously, and Solana is really, truly an amazing platform and an amazing ecosystem. But it's still true to say that maybe their ecosystem has drawn the attention of different communities for different reasons, right? Where you have an ecosystem like Ethereum, right, which has seemingly drawn people like Base, right, people that are focused more on decentralization and kind of building these net good apps in a longer term way. Maybe they're going to go slower, but not sacrifice, scalability for decentralization versus, Solana came in 2020 and they were, very focused on being faster and cheaper, right? But, maybe they sacrificed some decentralization, and to some people that doesn't matter as much, but maybe that ecosystem has kind of created more of a nature or attracted more of a crowd who is, more interested in making money faster, rather than, building applications in a much longer, slower way that are going to be, ultimately better for decades to come. So, maybe that's the case. There's going to be good players and bad players on all ecosystems. But it's very, interesting to see what kind of reputations and what organizations are joining these different ecosystems and what kind of crowds do they bring. So very, very interesting, awesome predictions. We've got a ton more here. I mean, we cover our whole team of roughly 10 people. And Dylan, do you want to add? I know I think yours are getting added here late, but anything you want to cover, Dill, that you didn't see or that we didn't
Yeah, I mean,
discuss?
I think a lot of my predictions have already been touched on. I'm super bullish on Dogecoin. I think Dogecoin to $1 is going to happen in 2025. That's probably my biggest, most clear prediction here. But yeah, I really agree with a lot of the stuff about Base. I'm super bullish on Base as well. And overall, I think there's some great predictions in here. So definitely a good article to check out.
Yeah, you can scroll through it real quick, Monty. Again, this thing isn't just a circle jerk. We've got our own team members who think that half of what we've said is completely wrong, and that's what honestly makes up for a good, diversified, opinion piece. So this is a really awesome piece. It was a pleasure putting this
Who was
together.
that, Monty? Where you just
That was
highlighted?
Noah, I think,
No, I loved
Nice.
it.
our director of culture. Very, very big trench trench worker there.
That's
And
Yeah,
awesome.
I think another big takeaway is that I think meme coins are going to continue to be a leading category for this bull run. I think last bull run, we really saw that space filled by NFTs. I think NFTs still have potential, but I think that sort of fun space in crypto is going to continue to be filled by meme coins. And I don't think we're going to necessarily see the same type of hype around NFTs. Like Monty said, Bored Apes probably never going to go to their all-time high again. That would be my guess. But anything can happen in this space.
yeah.
Yeah, I think people realize that meme coins are just NFTs with a lot more liquidity.
Some awesome opinions in here. Go check them out, guys. If you see any ones that you agree with, give it a repost, throw it out to your friends, tell them some big, awesome company in the space agrees with you. I think a lot of projects are going to go to the moon this year, and even more are going to fail. So we're excited to see how the year plays out.
Yeah. All right. So this is or sorry, wrong one. This is moving on to a more rough topic. So we're extremely bullish on AERO, but the biggest DEX in the space is Uniswap. There is, I don't want to say a civil war on in Uniswap land, but there's definitely some issues. Just to give you guys some context, Uniswap was really the first mass market DEX. It worked really well. It was a private company. They raised venture funding. I'm not sure if Consensus founded them or somehow there's a legal entity that has equity in it behind Uniswap. And then in 2020, there was a SushiSwap vampire attack where SushiSwap launched their own token and vamped like 25% of Uniswap's liquidity in like a week or something. So in defense of that, Uniswap launched their own token, Uni token, which was one of the biggest airdrops at the time in crypto. But the issue now is that there's really two different, two different groups of people with different incentives in Uniswap land. There's a people that own the equity in Uniswap company, like Uniswap Labs, and there's a token holders. And a lot of the issues right now is that the token holders and the tokens are being used to subsidize Uniswap's labs instead of them issuing new equity or doing stuff. It's using to pay bills that are overlapping with the Uniswap labs, and there's not a clear difference, and there's not a clear person who's leading this. And it's just once you have incentives that are not aligned like this, it's really hard to untangle the mess.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a super important thing to follow. I mean, this reminds me really because Uniswap is such a massive entity in the space. Really the leading DEX in the space, which is huge. This reminds me of the Bitcoin block size wars and debates happening back in. I remember when Bitcoin had one of its really first biggest forks into Bitcoin Cash, because of the block size debates, and that was a really impactful thing for the community. I think that studying things like this, studying events like this, right? Maybe it's right now just a bunch of nerds arguing about a civil war. Might seem silly when there's real world wars physically going on, but this is very important stuff. Understanding these landscapes right now, and understanding that these communities and tribes may be fighting with each other. That's going to tell you 6 months, a year, 18 months ahead of time, how things may play out. Right? These may be the first hints of, certain sects of Uniswap or of other projects really succeeding or really failing. So I think this is this is the first I'm actually hearing of this, and I'm excited to kind of dive deeper into it. But things like this that are happening culturally with these big communities and these biggest projects in crypto, very important to pay attention to, because that is certainly where some alpha is, whether it's on the buy or sell side.
just to add in here, I don't even know if it's culturally. It's literally dollars here. So, I mean, Alexander's great at doing this stuff, but here it's pretty clear that Uniswap investors underwrote dumping the Uni token to fund the Uniswap lab operations. But I don't think that that was an implicit agreement when Uniswap token was launched that it would just subsidize all of the private equity and the token holders wouldn't get any of the fees or the rewards from that. And this is just we get why they had to launch the token to combat SushiSwap, but this is 4 years later, 3 years later, and the chickens are coming home to roost, or whatever the expression is, that they might have crippled themselves a little bit by tearing apart the community.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great thread, but moving on, the better decks, and I mean, I think this solves it up a lot, and this is a great picture here, is that this is why AERO has been so successful, is because you can clearly see the difference between Uniswap traders, LPs, even with Curve, and the Aerodrome and Velodrome just have it much cleaner. And they give the fees to the LPs, the tokens go to the missions go to LPs, liquidity goes to traders, and the traders pay fees to the token. And there's no missing piece here. It's symbiotic when both of these are not, when you see fees are split in different ways that don't necessarily make sense.
This is awesome. This is a really, really good graphic. I love the visuals. What is up with the crypto industry and trilemmas? I think is every technical weirdo industry obsessed with trilemmas, or is it just us? Because it's like there's a trilemma. Oh, okay. I think maybe there's some deeper meaning going on here. Yeah, very, very nice visuals though. This is really, really cool. You should post this on Warpcast and our infographics channel.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons that I'm so bullish on Aerodrome. When I started reading about how the platform works, this is something that I sort of realized, I guess, without having a clear graphic of it, but just seeing how the incentives are set up and how the actual token itself, Aerodrome, is linked to the DEX activity, I think is really unique. And this graphic shows you how it's a step above of some of the other popular solutions. So super bullish on Aerodrome.
All core devs.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I mean,
moving on.
so Ethereum does, at this point in its life cycle, let's say, does probably one big upgrade every 12 to 18 months, a hard fork that includes technological improvements to the network. The next one that's coming up is Pectra. Pectra is not as sexy as some of the other ones, like 4844, which reduced the L2 cost, or 1559, which introduced the burn. But this is the biggest Ethereum upgrade ever, and devs are really excited about it. And anytime developers are really excited about anything, that should be a tale for you, because they understand it better than anyone else. And this will do a lot of stuff with with wallets and account abstraction, and make just your average crypto smart wallet much more usable. And it's hard to imagine exactly everything right now, but it unlocks just a whole new blue space of technological improvements that you can build into smart contracts.
Yeah, I never knew an ETH update could be sexy. But I think this is definitely some alpha to look into. Understand, if you don't follow already, on YouTube and X, Anthony Sassano of the Daily Gwei is typically, he's probably the best public Ethereum researcher. He does a great job, as best as possible as you can, to break down some of these really, really, really technical Ethereum roadmaps into just, normal layman, just vocabulary, and kind of a more simplistic understanding of what this all means and why it's important. But obviously, if it was too simple, then everyone would understand it and all the capital would be here, right? That's our job, is to find this really technical jargon that is, digest it and really figure out what is the most important, what's BS. And of course, we wouldn't be showing you this big ETH update if it wasn't very important. So definitely some alpha here for the daring, go and try to understand some of these bigger concepts that really dive deep into the cryptography and the economics and the consensus of the network.
And I think that this will happen in maybe early April or late March, so a few months out. But I mean, this has been planned for some of these EIPs have been in the works for years. So it's a great moment when all the developers come together and execute something. It's hard. And then moving on, the last topic, but this is something that blew my mind. That is something that's really cool, and this just shows the innovation that's happening in crypto. So in crypto, there's a term called MEV, which is it used to be minor extractable value, now it's maximum extractable value. What it means is that there's value in how transactions are organized when they're submitted in blocks. And what happened, and Chainlink released this with, I think, AAVE, with Bad Ghost Labs, AAVE and Flashbots, is that Chainlink provides a lot of data and information to these protocols. But when that data is updated, there's actually MEV possibility post data update. So if you know the price from Ethereum went from 2,900 to 2,910, and on another protocol, it's still at 2,900, there's some sort of value there. And so what Chainlink released, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, is that post transaction, they make a change in the network that, like I said, that post a transaction, there might be, the Ethereum might have gone up $10. And somehow, and I don't understand all the technical parts of this, they're able to capture the MEV on the backside too. So if they make a big trade or something that leaves a lot of MEV for someone else to come, normally it's another either bot or someone that comes after that scoops up that MEV. Chainlink has built something with AAVE and Flashbots that allows them to actually capture the MEV that they're creating through the transaction. And now you understand, or Chainlink is one of my biggest longs, where if Chainlink's built into every protocol and they can capture MEV from every protocol transaction that happens, you start to see how big it can actually get. Where if you're providing all the data to all of this, there's value in that, and they're just figuring out more and more ways to capture that. And this is just a new invention, and they've been doing similar stuff like this every 6 months or every year. And so that's one of the reasons I'm extremely, extremely bullish on this.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal example of some very technical, fundamental alpha that is, hard to understand at first. But if you dive into this, you can understand, just in the thesis that you just presented, why Chainlink is going to have so much more revenue as an application because they're harvesting all this MEV on top of everything else that they're doing. That's definitely alpha. I'm actually curious to know, I know some of the, net good benevolent entities like the guys behind Flashbots, create things to try to eliminate, MEV in general for the, greater market to not just be so kind of mercenary driven. Do you know, in what you've read so far, do they have plans to sort of redistribute these earnings in some sort of net good, or maybe put that towards some public goods, or are they just going to be harvesting that to go towards, the Chainlink community, which, could also be argued to be a public good?
Yeah, so from my understanding of it, it's new. They have the Chainlink code that they put into these smart contracts, and it's an additional part of the Chainlink code. And depending on the negotiating agreement, it splits the MEV. So, right, I think with the AAVE initial one, it went 65% of this MEV is going to go back to AAVE, and 35% of it will go to Chainlink. But I think the standard they're expecting is 60-40, and it's not. They're not going to give this to like the protocol guild or something that allows public services. But what this does is this returns it to the protocol. So whether you're an LP or a user or holder of the protocol, instead of leaking this value out to someone else, you retain it.
Yeah, that is definitely pretty bullish Chainlink then. So I understand the mind blowification. I'm gonna check this out. This is a great piece. I think that's a ton of alpha that we just covered here. There's a lot of different things going on. This episode was a bit more technical even and in the trenches. Now let's dumb it down a little bit. Let's get a little bit more simple. Let's just look at some pretty lines and some shapes and some basic human anatomy. Full disclosure. I can't even make up a disclosure about Dickbutt. I mean, I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's heard of Cat Dog. Welcome to Dickbutt. Thank you for listening, and we hope everyone has a great 2025.
Right on. Big things coming. Big things on the horizon for AB and you if you are in this market. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you.